Hello. There's been a lot of talk these days about change, and certainly no shortage of change being thrown at us. And I know that I've been talking about strategies for navigating that kind of change. But today I want to talk about something that's a little bit different. It's a different kind of change. Rather than being something that comes at us from the outside in, it's a kind of change that happens from the inside out. And I wanted to talk about it because it's something that I'm seeing is happening more and more for myself and for the people that I coach and many of my other clients. And if you're experiencing change from the inside out, which I would actually call transformation, there might be some things that are producing some anxiety around that. You might be a little bit uncomfortable and not necessarily know exactly how to navigate that. So today I want to share with you what I have noticed as the 5 phases of transformation and how they might show up for you and what you can expect in each phase, and also what you can do to make the most of those phases so that you can move through this inner transformation with ease and grace. So the first phase of transformation is generally awareness. And the awareness is oftentimes of the things that just are no longer feeling good to you. It could be that you have a gnawing awareness of the fact that there's something you want to change in your life, something that perhaps in the past used to ring your bell, fill you up, and no longer is. It could be something that not only used to be satisfying and pleasurable to you in the past, but now it's becoming irritating. And it also could be an awareness that what used to work for you in the past just isn't anymore. For many of us, it's a feeling that you're no longer wanting to grind at both ends in order to get things done. You're no longer willing to sacrifice your well-being in the name of productivity. And it could be, and I think for many of us, we're beginning to experience a different way of working that doesn't require that. So in many ways, this might be a growing awareness that you're experiencing as well. But in any case, awareness essentially is realizing that there's a change beckoning. And it could be a change from something that is no longer satisfying to something that you want more of. It could be that the change is something that's been calling to you and that you've been considering for a while, but you haven't acted on for whatever reason. Awareness is really important because awareness leads to the next phase of transformation, which is vision. And vision essentially is an idea of what it is that you want to move toward. So sometimes our visions are born of the awareness that the current reality just isn't it anymore. So oftentimes we know more about what it is that we do want by first identifying what it is that we don't want. And many of us, sometimes you might have a really concrete vision of what it is that you're wanting to move toward. Maybe there's something you've always wanted to do that is crystal clear in your mind in terms of what it would look like when you get there. For others of us, we just have kind of a feeling that there's something greater on the other side, but we don't really know what it is. Or we know that there's something we're ready to step into, but it's uncertain and unclear what it is exactly. Whether is that a new job? Is that wanting to move to a different location? Is it just wanting to show up in a different way? Is it something that you want to create in your life? You may not necessarily know. So that can be really frustrating to people. And I know for myself, that's been frustrating for me as well, because oftentimes I'll find myself getting excited about something that I have no idea what it is, and I may not even know where to start. And sometimes it's just a gnawing awareness that what it is that I'm doing, even though it used to work, is suddenly creating tension and frustration and putting me on edge. So that awareness, again, it can be frustrating when you don't have a crystal clear vision, but what I want to say about that is that what I've learned is that many of us tend to go about visioning from the standpoint, and we're kind of conditioned to do this, of identifying what it is that we most want in order to get or in order to feel a certain way. So we think, oh gosh, what I really want is to have a different job or a different boss or a different market or a different a different anything in order to feel whatever it is, in order to feel more peaceful, in order to feel more stimulated, in order to feel more connected, in order to feel more excited about something, in order to feel more creative. And what I've learned is that oftentimes you don't necessarily need to know exactly what it is that you're moving toward will look like, as much as if you can identify what the feeling is that you really want to experience as a result of that, and make that vivid for you. If you can step into that, if you can make that really clear and learn to embody that, what happens is the clarity on your vision becomes greater. So in other words, if what you're really wanting to feel is a sense of peace, a sense of ease, a sense of freedom, what you might be able to do is identify or see if you can find a way to really focus on the things that are already in your life that give you a sense of ease or a sense of peace or a sense of freedom. And the more that you can focus on those things so that you're feeling more of that feeling, the more you tap into what it is that you could do to create more of it. And I also believe the more it has a tendency to draw to you opportunities to step more fully into that. So that form of visioning is almost the same as asking a question. So when you recognize what it is that you want to create or what it is that you want to feel or experience, you're essentially formulating a question, which is, how exactly do I get there? So you can create a vision without having any knowledge of exactly how it is to go about creating it, though that often stops people in their tracks because oftentimes we believe that we have to have it all figured out in order to do anything. But my experience is that the third phase of transformation is where you oftentimes get the answers as far as what it is that you need to do in order to move more closely to your vision. So the third phase of transformation is insight. And insight are those little inklings that land on you. They come to you in the space between your thoughts. And it's something that you receive as opposed to something that you force or something that you conjure up. So because our minds are often so busy churning things, thinking about things, and preoccupied about what just happened or worried about what's going to happen next, we oftentimes have so much noise in our heads that we don't hear these little insights or these little inklings. So it's really important to create the space to allow those insights to land. And that space could be as simple as walking outside and sitting in the sun for a few minutes. It could be that you allow yourself to sit in silence, or you allow yourself time to listen to music, to do anything that really gets you out of your head and into a space where you're open. So whatever that is that lights you up, it could be that you like to do certain exercise. It could be maybe you have a hobby that allows you to lose track of time. Oftentimes we get our best insights and our best ideas, like I said, when we're not fully engaging our brains. A lot of times you'll hear people get great ideas when they're in the shower, when they're driving. And so it's really important for us to create space to allow those insights to land. Now, when the insights land, oftentimes they will prompt you to take action. And that's the fourth phase of transformation. And the action that you're generally going to be prompted to take will be different than something you've done before, which can create some fear, some hesitance, some trepidation, some resistance. It may be that your resistance is about having no idea how whatever it is that you're feeling prompted to do relates to anything in your life. You may have a sudden impulse to call somebody, or to write something down, or to send an email, or to clean out a cabinet, or anything. And if you don't really understand how it relates to something logical, you may dismiss it out of hand. You could have an insight to do something that scares you because you've never done it before and you don't really know exactly how to go about it, or because you're worried about what it could mean or whether or not you can handle it. And so the action phase of transformation does take some courage. And it also takes the willingness to act before you're ready, which is something that many of us have difficulty with, myself included. And I can tell you that for many years, I used to think that I had to have everything all figured out before I could take any kind of action. I had to be perfectly trained on things. I had to feel 100% competent. I had to have all of the steps laid out and all the contingencies identified and contingency plans created before I would take any action at all. And what I realized is that I spent a lot of time getting ready to get ready, but not actually doing anything. So it's really important in the action phase to get comfortable being uncomfortable and to recognize that oftentimes we do our best learning through our action. That sometimes we figure out what the way is by just embarking on a path that we have no idea where is going to lead us. So that is the action phase. And the fifth phase of transformation is anchoring. Generally, transformation is about change. So it's about moving from a place in phase one that you become aware is no longer satisfying to you, to doing something different. But the problem is that whatever it was that you were doing for however many years before you got the inkling to change it has a magnetic pull. It's the power of habit. And there's all kinds of books and research about that everywhere. And habits and conditioned action, patterns of action and thought, have a way of pulling us back into those patterns and habits. So what we need to do in the phase of anchoring is to practice the awareness of knowing when that's happening, to know when we're being triggered, which oftentimes takes place when we're anxious or tense, and we tend to revert back to what is comfortable and familiar. And what we need to do instead is identify a contingency or a different plan of action to undertake when that happens. So as an example, if you're feeling triggered and maybe something that you used to do in the past, I'll give you an example from my own life. So perhaps you have an opportunity that's coming to you, and in the past, your go-to was to over-prepare and overthink and complexify things. And perhaps you notice that you're falling into that again. And the way that you notice that is because you're aware that you're starting to feel edgy and irritated and anxious. And so that you recognize that is a trigger. So for me, that is one of them that I have to guard against. When I notice that I'm doing that, I have to implement some of the things that I've identified in the anchoring stage that helps me come back to what it is that I most want. So that could be just pushing pause, taking a break, taking some deep breaths, doing something that allows me to, again, get out of my head, remembering what my intention is, doing some writing, perhaps coming back to reading something that I've written before that reminds me of what it is that I most want. Those are the kinds of things that you can do to keep yourself from falling into old unproductive habits and patterns. So those are the 5 phases of transformation. We've got awareness, which leads to vision, which produces insights, and ultimately prompts us to take action, and then anchoring, which is what we can do to keep ourselves from falling back into old unproductive habits and patterns that are no longer satisfying. So that's what I have for you today. I hope that that's helpful to you if you find yourself in the midst of transformation, which essentially is change that's coming from the inside out. What I could tell you is don't be afraid of that. Step into it, allow it to take you where you need to go, and enjoy the ride. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll look forward to catching you next time.